I think so. All the comunas needs to learn is working together. Working together. So I don't care how much money you have, or you are poor, your color, your religions, and just no discrimination for someone. Maybe the future will be better.
Welcome to Global Goodness, where I'm your host, Kim Hunt. In a world inundated with troubling headlines, this podcast offers a refreshing perspective. Join us for inspiring interviews with people from across the globe who are spearheading remarkable projects dedicated to improving both humanity and our planet. Hello, everyone, and thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to some global goodness. In today's episode, we're taking you to the heart of Medellín, Colombia, to a neighborhood once known as one of the most dangerous places on earth, Comuna 13. But today, it's a vibrant hub of street art, music, and hope, attracting over 1,000 tourists every week. Joining us is Laura Patricia Loaiza Zapata, a proud resident of Comuna 13 and a passionate tour guide who has lived through its darkest days and now helps share its rebirth with the world. She's here to tell us what changed, how it happened, and what Comuna 13 can teach us about resilience and community power. Let's dive in. Thank you so much for joining. It's nice to see your face again.
Nice to see you for you inviting me. I'm
Yeah,
so excited.
me too. It was interesting how we ended up taking your tour because we had gone with Real City Tours and we had
Mm-hmm.
done a tour of Comuna 4 and of the market. And we just got so much out of it. And our tour guide was amazing. And we said, well, this afternoon we're going to go to Comuna 13, but we're not going to do a tour because we're kind of done with tours now. We're just going to wander around. And our tour guide said, well, I have kind of a funny feeling about that. It just sits weird with me because this community has gone through so much. And I feel like you can go to the community and see, all the cool art and go to coffee or have a drink and wander around, but you need to understand what this community's been through to see like where they are
Mm-hmm.
now. You should do Zippy Tours because all these people are from the community, so they've lived their lives here and they have authentic stories to share with you so you can really understand. And so we did your tour, ended up with you. I'm so glad we learned so much. You were such an amazing tour guide. I learned so much about your country and your community. And I'm just so glad we got to do your tour because if I didn't, I would have just been wandering through Comuna 13, seeing all the cool stuff, but I wouldn't have understood the context behind it or the context behind all the artwork. So I'm really glad I got to do my tour with you.
No, I was so excited, really. And also your friends, I don't remember her name. Wow, you are so interesting, especially when you ask me some questions and we are mommy together talking with
Yes.
kids. It was so very, very nice chemistry between us.
Yes, we bonded through motherhood.
Yes, yes. That was so nice.
Well, let's just get started. Tell me more about Laura, how you grew up, sort of a little bit about your life. You said you have a huge family. You are a tour guide now, but where did life take you before you ended up where I got to take your tour?
I think so. I'm like a really simple woman, struggling a lot
Mhm.
and put a lot of efforts to improve my life because my parents was not rich or in a good condition, especially when as a lot of kids. When you grow in the family like this, and just my point, maybe other brothers and sisters are different than me. Everybody's different. There's similarity that your fingers on your hands, but we're struggling a lot to
Mhm.
get opportunities. I wanted to learn English years ago. There was no opportunities in Colombia, no tourists coming here until 2016. I studied the tour guide in 2011. I was not tourist in 2011 in Medellin. You know how was the stigma, the reputation about Medellin city. I was the nurse before, nurse before working the hospitals. Hard work, so a lot of passion because it's not easy because you have people in different ways, good, very help and stay in bed. So in that job, you know your life is simple. It just you know appraise it every time on July. It just changed immediately. So it was the things that I learned about that job. But when I heard about the voluntary program with English class, I said, wow, okay, I think so. This is my opportunity. But I didn't have any idea it would be the guy in Comuna 13. So my dream or the things that I really want to get in the time just to be out to Colombia. Yes. And I'm so excited. How was my neighborhood growing a lot? How is the people get business or opportunity? They're making a progress a lot. So it's getting better.
And I think that is one of the things that is a continuing theme through so many people that I've talked to in Colombia is that everyone has struggled. It's been a really hard life. But through that, everyone I've also talked to has so much grit, so much hope, so much
Mhm.
resilience, and so much
Mhm.
love for their community. And
Yeah.
I really see that as everyone wanting a better life, or not a better life, but just like a safe, yeah, a better life in a way. They want more for their community. They want safety for their families and their community members. They want everyone to be able to rise up, afford the things they can have the health care that
Yeah.
they want. So that's been definitely a theme that I have seen throughout the people in that.
Yes, yes. And it's true. It's true that you say it was so hard in the beginning, of course, to change the stigma about this area because
Mhm.
it was one of the most dangerous places. But I really surprised how is the people encourage themselves. Yes, so it's wonderful. And also, I'm very excited every day how many tourists coming to visit us. So they don't care is high season or low season. They're really excited to see sometimes my Celts neighborhood. But I love it. Really love it how it is.
Well, it's so neat because as a traveler, you can go to the different places, but you don't necessarily get an insight into people's lives. And you really share that
Yeah,
story, which I think people really, really love to be able to understand more of the culture. And I read somewhere that Comuna 13 gets about 1,000 tourists a week, which is
yeah,
amazing, and I believe it. But before that, maybe we can backtrack. For listeners who are not familiar, can you describe what Comuna 13 was like in the past during the difficult times? Because, you can also read about it. Some people have no idea what we're
yeah.
even talking about who are listening, and it's a totally different experience to hear it from someone who has lived it.
So if we're talking about how in the time, the 80s and 90s, when Pablo Escobar was alive, this neighborhood was quiet. Not
Mhm.
many things happened really. The quality of life was worst because we didn't have water, was no electricity, was no concrete because it was the illegal houses in the 80s and 90s. So in 1993, it was the first time that the government legalized all the houses in this area. Yeah,
I just want to step in for 1 second and explain a little bit more about what Laura is talking about. To understand the transformation of Comuna 13, you first need to understand how it began. Like many hillside neighborhoods in Medellín, Comuna 13 was largely built by families displaced by rural violence or poverty. They arrived with nothing and built homes where they could, often on steep, unstable land at the edge of the city. These were informal settlements. There were no legal deeds, no titles, and no city planning. Without official recognition, there were no basic services, no sewage, no reliable electricity, and no schools. And without state presence, other forces filled the gap. Armed groups moved in, taking control of the area and its people. For decades, the residents lived in fear, not just of violence, but of losing their homes entirely. That's why gaining legal titles later wasn't just a bureaucratic win, it was a turning point. It gave people security, dignity, and the right to invest in their future. It was one of the first steps towards transformation. Okay, let's get back to the podcast.
So people feel, and I think it was the first change that people feel comfortable and say, "This is my own house, this is my property. Nobody is going to steal my house when I go into live for 2 days." So now I have like a document for that. So I think it was the first, really the first change that people feel comfortable in their own places. Yes, for the violence, it's unbelievable how was because Medellin has good strategic places. You know, I told you about it. Comuna 13 is close to the Pacific Ocean and the Urabá coast, Caribbean coast, and also it's not far away to the border to Panama. So it was an easy access for the illegal groups like guerrillas. This is the left group. It
Mhm.
was formed in the 16th. It was a protection for vulnerable people, farmers, workers, indigenous, but you know, they used to control all
Mhm.
that. They preclude people 10 years old and 16 years old, and it's still happening in Colombia. For the abuse of the guerrillas for the power, the government created another illegal groups. It was paramilitaries. They
Yeah.
fight together because paramilitary was the protection for rich people. Because the only way, different than drugs, the guerrillas get some money, just kidnap rich people.
So the
Yeah.
paramilitary was hired by the rich people to fight against the guerrillas.
Exactly, that's right. Yes, it was a huge conflict in Colombia, and it's still the conflicts never end. It's still happening in some areas in Colombia, like Cauca, uh, Nariño, Putumayo, El Catatumbo. These are some areas that is still really dangerous because it's close to the oceans.
Why was Comuna 13 considered one of the most dangerous areas in Medellin? Like, why was that a target area?
Yeah, the reason for that was the location.
Hmm.
Yes, and also it's a vulnerable area was the most important reason for that was their location because it was close to the Pacific and the
Right.
border to Panama. So guerrillas they use that way to traffic drugs, weapons, and money because from Panama it's easy that you can go to United States, Europe, and everywhere.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, what's the reason for that? And also they use vulnerable people was no opportunities and that time for poor neighborhoods. So it was very easy for a lot young people joining legal groups.
Yeah. And you were saying that because you could go to school and try and make something of yourself, or you could join a guerrilla group and,
Yeah,
like you were saying, have the power and control, and then go into a grocery store and take whatever you wanted because you had guns. And so they were targeting the young, vulnerable people who just saw an easier way of life versus the struggle that they were going through every day.
yeah, yes, that's right. Because when you get out of the high school, for my generation in 2000, there was nothing. There
Yeah.
was nothing. There was no the opportunities that are right now for many of them. So sometimes a little frustration for me because there are a lot of options for this generation, but some of them don't want to do anything or just spend the time on the phones. You know, times is very different. But my
Yeah.
point is, it was the not like only options. We need to struggle a lot. We need to working hard. But for a man to be a man, it was not easy when you live in the neighborhood like this in the poor area. So some people is try to show you a good way. Come on, selling things. You need some money. You want to look so well. Have maybe some drugs. You can
Mm.
sell it for that or kill someone. They use
They used
innocent
them.
people.
I was talking to someone in your country, and they were just saying that 80% of the men were either killed as a bystander or went to go work with the guerrillas or went to go warfare at some point because that was the option for them. And so it was a lot of women left in the communities. Is that right? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, yeah. The one of the worst situation for women in that time. It was, for example, some of the illegal groups, they look at you so beautiful, but they don't care you don't like them. So they force you, sometimes they rape. And also, the education for us in that time, I don't know you hear about that. Like the beautiful lady, they always like the bad guys and poor neighborhoods. You hear about it. It's more
Okay.
attracted that when you grow up in like a poor neighborhood, for you will be more interesting is the strong guy. They had the control for the community. They had the gun. Sometimes it's happening. It was not in my mind because my mom gave me a good principles. But part of my friends, the couples or the partners, it was always guys from the guerrillas. Yeah, when I talk to them, they say, "Oh no, because he's a leader, he has control. They give me
Yeah.
some money." So it was the thought with some women from here.
Before, uh, the change started to happen in Community 13 for the better, would you say the worst kind of point was
Yeah,
the Orion Project?
right.
Is that what it's called? Orion
Yeah.
Project?
No, it's like a military operation
The
for the
military.
government.
Right.
Yeah, it was
And that was,
11
well, can you
or
explain
right.
it a bit more for our listeners? I have an idea of what was all about and kind of learned it,
Okay.
but maybe you could explain what that project was and the impacts it had on your community. I want to talk a little more about the Orion operation just so you can understand it. In 2002, a pivotal moment in the history of Comuna 13 and Medellín as a whole took place. The city was grappling with escalating violence driven by drug cartels, armed groups, and gangs. It was a time when Comuna 13 was considered one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in the world. To restore control, the Colombian government launched Operation Orion, a military offensive aimed at reclaiming territories under the control of illegal armed groups. This operation involved over 1,000 soldiers and police officers storming Comuna 13 in a heavily handed assault, with the goal of eliminating the gangs that had taken over the area. The operation was brutal. Buildings were torn apart, homes were raided, and there were reports of human rights violations. For many residents, it felt like an invasion rather than a rescue. And yet, despite the violence, Operation Orion made a turning point. Though it left deep scars in the community, it also pushed the government to invest in social programs, infrastructure, and public services for the neighborhood, things that had been neglected for years. It's in the aftermath of this operation that Comuna 13 began its slow, painful, but steady process of transformation. Okay, let's jump back in.
So when the violence was assigned to the hands, because it was the worst, really worst time for us, it was like curfew, was nobody on the street between 4 p.m. and until 12 p.m. It was between 2000 and 2002 was the period. It was so dangerous. It was really, really hard to live here. There was bodies on the street, shooting every time. So we are the survivors. So it was the reason that the government made like 11 military operation,
Yeah,
but the most drastically was Orion. Orion
yeah.
was the military operation for the government apprehended and killed to subdue the guerrillas they controlling the area.
And
Yes.
then in the in the process of that, they ended up killing a ton of civilians as well. Is that
Oh
right?
yeah. Of
Yeah,
course.
yeah,
Yes. Always in the situation with this, when it's a violence, it's always civilians in the middle. Always innocent people in the middle.
yeah. That's just,
It's very
yeah.
bad.
When you go visit, I think that's the important thing to learn about the history of this community is that when you go through Comuna 13 now, you would have no idea. Like it's just this bustling hub of art and activity.
Oh
And
yeah.
and saying that, at what point did you begin to notice a change in Comuna 13? Like when did things start to get better? When did things start to turn around? I know people are still struggling, but when did the everything start to change?
So if you're going to say like a really exactly year when everything was started,
Mhm.
maybe in 2000, 2010. It
Yeah.
was the Sur American Games, like a competition for sports, volleyball, basketball. So Medellin was the city for that. I think so 2010, it was the beginning for that. About Comuna, but was no tourist. They use the metro cable and stay in the last station, La Aurora. Most of the sport, what is it, the players,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you got
Players.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so they stay there, but they never come in to my neighborhood that you went. Yes.
Okay.
So it was a slowly process. 2012 was the first peace agreements with las guerrillas de las FARC. It was the beginning for the process to change. 2012 with the peace agreements. But was anything happen here? So 2013, so Medellin received an international award because the escalated was amazing project around the world. They just really they changed the stigma about that area. Yes. So 3 years later, 2016 was the second peace agreement with las guerrillas de las FARC. Then really, really Colombia, it was safe. And
And
it
so
was the
that
beginning of the first peace as 2016.
so the peace agreement was between the guerrillas, the government,
Um,
and the paramilitary.
paramilitary.
Like is that
Paramilitary.
all the groups?
That's right. Yes.
Okay. And
And
then
also,
mhm,
no. And in 2015, it was another peace agreement with the criminal groups from the neighborhood. The government was not involved, but was the mafias. They making a process for no shooting, no violence, try to be quiet. They still exist, but it's not really dangerous. I was in 2015 with the peace agreements with the mafias from the neighborhoods here.
you had talked about that Comuna 13 Medellin has won international awards for the escalators. So let's talk about that because that is really interesting, I think, because I had asked you the question when I saw you, why does Comuna 13 have escalators and no one else? And you had a really interesting answer to that. So can you talk about the escalators and answer my question again for the listeners?
Okay, so the escalators, so these escalators are a world famous project,
Mhm.
an innovative solution to improve the access to the home of the people living here. So these escalators, they change many things in our neighborhoods. More than 20,000 people are benefit for the project because through the escalators, there are a lot of business. So it's wonderful how it's a good investment for the government. Really, really changed the stigma about one of the most dangerous places around the world. But I would never imagine, really, in like a short time, this neighborhood changed like this. So it's wonderful. I hope your friends or your visitors that wants to so excited or curiosity to come in here.
Yeah. So for the listeners that haven't been to Comuna 13 is built up on a hillside. So you have to walk up very steep hills and streets to go anywhere. And you had told me before that before the escalators were in, there were 700 stairs. Is that right? That people had to walk up and down about?
No, when I say that the tour is because it's a good example for Guatapé. Guatapé,
Sure.
has like a
It's a
huge rock.
huge
Exactly.
pain. And I
Yeah.
can imagine, that's for someone who's fit to walk up and down
Yeah.
the stairs. But for someone who's more elderly or injured, I can't imagine what a hassle that would be. So for the
Yeah.
escalators, it's so amazing to be able to get around, go down the hill to the
Yeah.
hospital, groceries, just visiting other people. It's really amazing. And then when I'd asked you about why the other communities did not have an escalator,
Mm,
because there's 16 communities in Medellin, you
there's
had
only
told me
one.
a really interesting answer. And can you say that again?
Yeah, that's right. So there are three reasons for that.
Hmm.
That escalators is here in Comuna 13 and another Comuna. It's the first one. The government really needs to change the stigma about the area because
Hmm.
most of the local people feel embarrassed, so embarrassed. You don't feel comfortable when the people ask you where you live. Do you know about Comuna
Mhm.
13? People that never said that. I never said that before
Mhm.
because, people tend to judge before they know the whole story.
Yeah.
So it was a good, really good point that people feel excited to say I'm from Comuna 13. So the second one, improve the access. Yes, I told you there are 23 neighborhoods in Comuna 13.
Oh,
So we
wow.
are privileged. Just only one neighborhood in Comuna 13 has the escalators. So it's a really good things that happen. And also the tourists coming to visit us. So maybe for you to hear about there are escalators in one of the most dangerous places, it's like good things happen in your mind that you say, oh wow, I would like to see that. How is
Mhm.
that now? So
Mhm.
really you feel comfortable and curiosity to feel that situation. But the idea was three reasons before that decide escalators. The first one, it was the long street. You remember the path that in the end of the escalators?
Yes.
So when meeting with the community, with the professionals
Yeah.
to decide to ask to the community, okay, we had three ideas. You like the long street that the cars coming, yes, the metro cables or the escalators. So everybody was look around to say, I think so we're going to say the escalator, maybe it's never happened. People
Mhm.
say escalators. But they're really surprised the government really put escalators in our neighborhood. Because I heard that project when I was in the high school years ago,
Yeah.
before the violence. But the mayor, if the mayor don't wants to do anything, it's impossible. The city can change. But this is the reasons. For now, we have escalators. Yes, because really people don't think that the really government put escalators. Say, oh, we're going to say escalators. Maybe it's impossible they can do
Yeah.
that. And now they put it.
It's very unique. And I think you had told me that other countries around the world have come to visit Comuna 13 who maybe wanted to put escalators in their areas, like maybe the favelas in Rio, in Brazil, or something, to see how it works in a community for maybe other countries to incorporate it into their cities. That has,
Yes. I remember in the beginning of the tour, like 8 years ago, it was the guy from Brazil.
Mhm.
He was really excited with all the situations were happening here to hear the history. But he said, Laura, I would like that really one of my favelas that had escalators. But it's that little sad that we need to get violence. Yes, but the
Yeah.
government said, okay, we need to involve some things in that area. In Mexico, I don't remember how was the neighborhood, but in
Mhm.
Mexico there is one escalator similarly like this.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
yes. And also Spain, Barcelona. Yes, the Barcelona
Yeah.
was the copy for the escalators here.
Mhm.
The tourist told me I had never been in Spain or Barcelona, but people are. This is the reason that I'm so excited when I asked them.
Yeah.
They have been in another country with escalators. Hong Kong. Everybody, most of them, they say Hong Kong.
Mhm.
Yes, Barcelona. Sinaloa, I think, is in Portugal.
Oh,
Something. I don't know exactly. I forgot it. But in South America, this is the only one.
this is the only one. It's so cool. Anyone, any listeners, if you have not been to Colombia, you need to go to Colombia. You need to visit Comuna 13. You need to go to Zippy Tours and take Laura as a guide, and she'll take you through all the escalators.
I'm
It's
so excited.
such a neat experience. So you were switching back to starting to talk about the transformation of Comuna 13. You had talked about all the different groups involved had signed a peace agreement, and that's
Yes.
when things started to get better. So that happened. And then would you say, like, with this transformation of the Comuna, would you say it was like there was external support besides the escalators? Would you say there was external support from the government to kind of lift the community up, or was it a really like community-led effort? Did you have leaders in your community who were like, let's turn this around. Tourism is going to be our thing. How did that start happening?
I think so. It's important working together because if the government wants to put escalators, for example, they say,
Mhm.
okay, this is for the community. but the local people don't want to do anything. Nothing's happened. Yes,
Mhm.
so it's necessary, really a team together with investment, the social leaders. There are good social leaders in the neighborhood. I don't know, you remember the institution that I told you, UVA, for example, UVA.
Mhm.
Yes, source and social transformation try to break down the invisible borders that exist in the neighborhood.
Right.
So that institution has the extra activities, for example, the condo class, theater class, music class, that the kids get out of the high school, they wants to do some things different than the sports. So in there, for example, is about recreations and sports. So it's wonderful because they're training young people 10 years old and 25 years old in any sports. Yes. So it's good how is the people working together and also the tourists. Really. Because it's amazing how is the government put in the neighborhood by the tourists not coming to visit us. It's not support for any families.
Yeah.
Really. In the beginning, people really was so weird, feel so weird and
Yeah.
uncomfortable. I
Yeah.
say, why is coming here? It's an ugly neighborhood. Just why they feel so excited to see the escalators because it was less murals on the walls.
Yeah.
But when the pandemic came, it was crazy. It was very worst. Oh, we understood. We get knowledge because what is the reason for all this transformation? There is a murals, there is a galleries for a good that you will see the talents of the local artists that they paint on the street. And
Mhm.
now they have like a huge gallery. They're selling all of the talent, like a more expensive, like a 20 millions Colombian pesos. Yes.
I just want to touch base on the peso very quickly, as Laura was just talking about artwork being in the millions of pesos. So let's just talk about money very quickly, specifically the Colombian peso. It's the official currency of Colombia, and as of now, one Canadian dollar is worth about 3,000 pesos, though the exchange rate can fluctuate. That means something like a local meal or a bus fare might cost just a few thousand pesos. And when you hear big numbers during our conversation, remember, in Colombia, even small everyday items can sound like a lot when you're counting in thousands. So when Laura is referencing that artwork that could be millions of pesos, it's thousands of dollars. Also, I wanted to call out, I just love that you can hear tropical birds singing in the background during our interview. Even though Medellin is a big city, it's full of vibrant wildlife. Back to our episode.
So without tourists, how are they going to get everything? Or why is the reason to be the guy? There's
Yeah.
nobody. Yeah, so it's really you are a really good support for many and many families. Yes. This is the reason that I love tourism in my neighborhood.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, I think that it works both ways then because people are really excited to understand the Colombian experience and have fun and feel safe. And it works for the locals too because they really appreciate being able to get to share all of their talents.
Mm,
And tying on to that, street art and music seem to play a really big role in the identity of Comuna 13. And was this always the way? Was this always the case? And it just became more prevalent or obvious when the community became more safe? Or is this something, how did this cultural movement start? Because just so our listeners know, all through Comuna 13, there's the most beautiful street art everywhere that has a story to tell behind it about the artist or about the culture or a moment in time of the community. And there's people, I mean, and not even in Comuna 13, there's just people dancing in the streets all over Colombia. So is that, has that always been the case, or is that a new cultural movement?
not really. Again, so about the hip hop culture, that exists for years. Years
Yeah.
ago, was the culture for United States. It was a lot of influence in Colombia, but about the murals that you saw here is so new. It was street art. It was words, cartoons,
Hmm.
vandalism, Che Guevara, everywhere. So, but did it exists the Afro-Colombian dancers, but they never danced on the street before. All the things that you saw here with the dancers, with the graffitis, the
Yeah.
music so loud, it was didn't exist before until the tourists
Okay.
coming here just to
Okay.
show us. It was so excited to see how was the culture. Yeah,
The murals that I see all over Comuna 13 and also throughout Colombia, they're beautiful pieces of work.
yeah.
Are those commissioned by the community, or how do those go about going up on the wall?
Okay, it was the initiative with the local artists from here.
Hmm.
You know, the government they never, they're not in agreement with that. But the tourists coming here, escalators,
Hmm.
great walls, the artists they look they say, oh my God, this is amazing to painting. Yes, we can talk with the government possibly. They say, okay, you are allowed, just do it. I can
Yeah.
make some things different that the people they realize how in colors you would see our story. It was
Hmm.
unbelievable because you really enjoy it. People really enjoy it. How in the colors you will see our story. So
Yeah.
it's like that. It was the initiative for the local artists, not for the government.
Well, I think it's so cool too because one, we were talking about there's a story behind every piece of art, and
Yeah.
it's such a powerful story. And then two, it's such great exposure for the artist. And gosh, you have really talented artists in your community. Like the art you have everywhere is beautiful.
Yeah, true. For me, it's
Yeah.
surprises where I didn't realize it was the people like this has amazing quality of talent.
Yeah. And I feel like your community is so artistic, it's so creative because I feel like Comuna 13 is just this explosion of colors and artwork and music. You walk up that main street, you have your souvenirs, but then you have all these art shops and clothing stores. People have created the clothing or the artwork themselves. And it's really fun to see, or just the every little shop that someone has decided to create, or people dancing in the streets. Like it's like this explosion of just like artistic culture. It's so cool.
You don't believe me when I say that. But about the all the stuff that you have seen here, it was the initiative for the galleries, for the local artists. It was didn't exist all the time. The principal street, you remember, and Independencia number one was the beginning
Yeah.
of the tourists coming.
Mhm.
Yes, the people just copy the ideas. They say, "Oh, this is a good artist. Maybe I can copy,
Yeah.
put in the teachers, and they selling." So
Yeah.
now I just no control about it.
Yeah.
This is the one of the reasons that you will see most of the stores have the same styles.
Hmm.
Yes, because in the galleries, you will know it's the owner, there's only the artist making that
Yeah.
authentic things. But on the street, it's just copies. But you
Yeah.
know that people needs to make some money, needs to making some ideas. It's just like that. And also, we're the first, sorry, the second company doing the tour in English. Yes, because nobody speak English 8 years ago. And now there
Yeah.
are a lot of people doing the tour in English as well. And they copy. I say, oh my goodness, it's a huge competition. It's just like this.
Yeah. Well, when someone gets a good idea, people like to copy it.
Oh.
But
Yeah, of course.
saying that, when I did real city tours, they told me you need to go to Zippy Tours. They are the
Mhm.
authentic company. You need to go see them. So there's definitely word out on the street. But I agree with you about the English speaking. The only people I spoke English to were my tour guides, and no one else in Colombia speaks English. Which was
Mhm.
great because it made me practice my very terrible Spanish, and it made me come back realizing I really want to make an effort to learn Spanish.
That's
I'll
good.
work on that. So because there's just so many people I wanted to talk to, but the language is a barrier. Do you find that with the tours and the experiences that you're offering in Community 13, do the people in the community find them respectful, or like you were saying they were beneficial? Like, how does the community find the tourism? Like, there's probably, I'm sure, both sides to that.
Yes, it's true, Kim. There are two things.
Hmm.
Nothing is perfect. I love
No.
how is that. But it's a little really sad for me that there are tourists coming here looking for drugs, maybe
Yeah.
women.
Hmm.
Yes, they say, well, they change because it's not the idea for this neighborhood to offer that service.
Yeah.
Yes, but the situation for that is because in 2018, yes, it was a huge year for us because the series on Narcos, it was so popular. Como Medellín was one of the most popular city around the world, so it was a
Hmm.
lot tourists to visit us.
Hmm.
Yes, so it was the beginning for all many tourists to visit us, and it was a lot informal guys starting to offer the tour.
Okay.
So then they're working in a good way, yes, but nothing is perfect. They
Yeah.
behind. They say
Hmm.
I have this for if you want.
Hmm.
So it's very sad
Yeah.
because there's no control for that situation. And it's a little really offensive for me when on the tour people ask me about drugs or if I know the
Yeah.
ladies offer some things different. Say, why do you ask me that? This is very offensive for me. I try to show you how it's a good things, but it's public, you would see different kinds of things.
Yeah, and hopefully that will
Rational.
happen less as more people travel to Colombia and realize it is more than just Narcos. But it's interesting because I remember watching Narcos and I found it very stressful to watch with the violence. But what kept me watching was it was the cinematography was so beautiful. I was like, where is this place? Does it even exist? It is gorgeous. And that was Colombia. And it's interesting when I was telling people that I was traveling to Colombia, they were either like, "Oh, I've been, it's the most, I have such a great time," or they were like, "Why would you go there? It's really dangerous." And so
Yeah.
I think that since 2016 or 2018, that's not very long since the country has really opened up to tourism. So I feel like tourism is exploding there right now. So
Yeah,
there might always be this history, but that's why I think it's so great that we do these tours. We learn about the history, but this is Colombia. It's not just the drugs, it is the people and the art and the
exactly.
beautiful nature and so hopefully that will change.
Yeah, exactly. I try to put a little efforts to show that 2 points. How
Yeah.
was the past and how is right now. That
Yeah.
people really try to focus how is a good things for that.
What does it feel like now walking through Comuna 13 versus 10 or 20 years ago? I mean, there's definitely a lot of music.
Yeah.
I'm being everywhere versus being before, but tell me
Everywhere. You
what
travel in Colombia, so it's everywhere. It's different in the countryside. In
yeah.
the cities, people likes to hear the music so loud. But it's our school. I grew up with the family. Listen, the music is so loud. They don't care. The baby needs to sleep. But now it's really comfortable. There are some
Yeah.
things happening, of course. That I always say just be careful if you're walking on the street, not only here, not only in Medellin, it's everywhere when you travel around the world.
Yeah.
Just the Colombian always say, don't give papaya. You know what I
Oh, can you
mean?
remind me? I heard it, but I forgot.
Yes. This is a good thing that I try that the tourists try to
Yeah.
understand it. Just don't give papaya. You travel around the world, yes? And just not only in Colombia. But just be careful with your phone, with your money, not carry
Yeah.
expensive
Yeah.
earrings or something like that. Yes, it's like this. But and also the mafias that are here is try to protect you if something's happened. And normally it's always fine. Always is fine. Yes, because mafia understood if you come in here, you be comfortable, you spend some money, there are more business. Yes, this
Yeah.
is in a good way about that. Yes, but it's amazing in the beginning with people coming with the guy, and now many of them after you say your first time, your second time, the third time they come in alone. They say, "Wow, I feel comfortable, Laura. So I don't need a guy." I say, "Oh, wow, that's good." And they bring some friends. So it's
Right.
nice. It's really nice that you feel comfortable that you're home.
Yeah, I would like to tell all my listeners to hear. When I went to Colombia, my friend and I did not know what to expect, how safe or dangerous it would be. And the very first day we took the metro and we were like, oh, this is a lot cleaner and nicer than other countries we've ever been in.
Yeah,
We felt really safe. And I think to your point, just be smart, right? Don't be a papaya. We didn't
that's
walk down random streets or go to neighborhoods we weren't welcome in. All over the country we traveled and we felt very safe.
yeah, yeah. Oh no, I'm really happy, Kim, that you really enjoy my country. That your time was wonderful, good experiences for you.
It was so good.
Nice.
We were so sad to leave Medellin. We just fell in love with your city. So I would wanted to ask you, what
Yeah.
are some of the current goals or projects that are happening now in Comuna 13, or maybe that are happening now with you yourself?
Oh, that's nice. I have a lot of things I hope to happen soon.
Yeah.
So for my neighborhood, I don't know too much about it. Yes, and maybe I need to talk with my friends because he's one of the leaders. So he knows everything that how is the project happen. But I know every 6 months it's a project. It's like a huge project in Colombia, and every comunas, especially in Medellin, is called el presupuesto participativo. It's
Hmm.
like the money with the government give to the students in the past to you past to university, especially for the level 1 and 2. You know about that? They're like a poor people. They don't have money for a high university and the schools. Yes, the university, so I know this is the very important for students get out of high school. They need to be in the program for the government give money for them to continue your
Okay.
education.
Yeah.
Yes, this is the really one's important. And the second one is just sex education for the kids. It's a programs. It's not very often because it's still Colombian taboo with that situation. But they're making in some neighborhoods that.
Yeah, in regards to sex education, can you tell our listeners what the average age is of a girl that would get pregnant in Colombia or Medellin?
Yeah, it's a little sad to say that, but it's the average is would be 14 and 60 years old.
Yeah,
It's more happen in the poor neighborhoods or
yeah.
in the countryside like Choco, Urabá, you know, of indigenous communities of the
Hmm.
village. Yes.
And so do you think that would tie in with not only having sex education, but them getting more educational opportunities so that maybe they can see that there is more opportunity for them before starting a family really early?
Yeah, this is the most effort with the social leaders working for that. That the women 14 years old they think how is the big responsibility to get pregnant in that age.
Hmm.
In the private schools, they give you adults. You know, adult like a baby is a
Oh, yeah.
adult baby.
Yes.
Yeah, for the training, how is 40 years old they have this, but it's not the public schools. So sometimes when you grow in a huge family, like my family,
Yeah.
I think to have babies is easy. Really. I
Mhm.
have two. I think they say, oh my God, two is too much for me. Not like my parents. Yes. So, but my parents they never talked to me with that.
Hmm.
Yes. It's still in some families, very Catholic or in another religions, they don't feel comfortable to talk about sex education. Yes, I think so. This is the one of the reason that the our generation they don't have good knowledge.
Hmm.
It's just like this. I try to talk with my son, of course, but it depends on them.
Yeah. They never want to listen. Nope.
it's, it's, it's true. But it's like this. Really, the some leaders are struggling a lot for that communities
Hmm.
to get good knowledge. Yes, or
Yeah.
they needs to prepare how is the process. It's take time. It's
Yeah.
really the time because in Colombia, especially in Colombia, it's still like the macho, the men is in
Machismo.
working
Hmm.
exactly, and the woman is in house or taking babies. It's not like that. Just try to change that ideologies for years and years.
It's a slow
Yeah,
process. But
exactly.
how do you feel talking to the females? How do you feel opportunities are for them, and maybe even just for youth in general, when they get out of high school or university? Do you think that there's more opportunities for them now than there was 20 years ago to get a
Oh,
job? Is that different?
no, yeah, I think so. He's different. Yeah, just to look to show you to show how is you knowledge, how you how much you ready are for making the things that you want to do.
Hmm.
Yes, it depends how is on companies. Yeah, because in some area they is allow more men than women. Or
Yeah.
maybe it's a man here and the woman is like that. They
Hmm.
just
Hmm.
crazy. But has the quality knowledge, for example. But I think so. It's not so really so bad. You struggling, you can do that.
Yeah. I think that's the story around the world, but everyone around the world, women around the world, and male allies are trying to change that story.
Yes, yes. And also, it was so funny to say that because in Colombia there are more women than men. Maybe one day all the women working together will be a one woman president.
Yes.
That's complicated.
So, how would you say that people from the outside, tourists or organizations, or even listeners of this podcast, can support the ongoing positive changes in Community 13 or Medellin? Is that by using our tourist dollars to come visit, or is there any way how anyone can support the efforts that Community 13 is trying to do?
But your point is how is the perception for people outside to see Colombia, or is the all organizations to help us?
There's more like
Yes.
perception. Yeah. Like, how can we change the perception of Colombia?
I think so is getting better. There are some things happening, of course, but it's good when the tourist has good feelings, good experiences.
Hmm.
Yes, and maybe like you're talking with your friends. How was your feelings? So this is a really, really amazing things for Colombians' reputation change
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
quickly.
All right. I will get on my soapbox. I will tell everyone to come to Colombia, and it's so beautiful, and the
Yes.
people are so lovely, and it's safe.
Awesome. Oh, yes.
Okay, this is a question, and it might be hard to answer, but what lessons do you think other communities around the world can learn from Comuna 13? Either the changes that you've been through or what you've created for yourselves.
I think so. All the comunas needs to learn is working together.
Mm,
Working together. So I don't care how much money do you have, or you are poor, your color, your religions. It's just no discrimination for someone. Maybe the future will be better. Yes,
yeah.
here was like this. There are people feel jealous, of course, because they don't live, for example, in the principal street, or maybe they don't speak another language. But it's possible you can do that slowly, just step by step, you know. But I hope really other communes and other illegal groups they understand how is the important working together. The community is getting better. Yes, for not for get more money, just a good quality life.
Yeah.
This is my perception when I say that. For example, I learned my English in the voluntary program. Four guys in Zippy Tour in the beginning. Now we have 11 because I need to take break.
So, well, how many tours a day or a week do you do?
Oh, if we're talking about 5 years ago,
Yeah.
was not a lot of people speaking English at the time. It was two tours every day for 7 days.
Oh, yeah.
So far, I love it, but really, it's not in
Lot.
a good quality
Hmm.
condition to have the same energy every time.
Yeah.
Yes, so now we had just one tour per day, Yeah, sometimes it's easy for me to take some days off. Similarly for my friends.
Yeah.
Yes, and also this is like a low season, so it's fine. It's fine. Imagine this is only for CP Tour. Imagine how it's for another companies they working here. Yes,
Yeah.
so it's very very interesting. How is that? I love my job, but sometimes I need to take some day off.
Of course. Everyone needs to take days off, especially you put so much of yourself into it. And to have a job where
Yeah.
you're facing public all day long, that's really tiring.
But can you don't imagine how is really my feelings when in
Yeah.
tour and people say, Laura, I love it. I love how is the progress in your community. I hope the dreams that you have is coming true. And also about the dreams that you say that you asked me. I had one. This is for years, 3 years on my mind before then speak English. Just stay in one country, maybe like a 6 months, really to improve a lot my English and learn how is the culture. And the moment I don't know what is the country, but this
Ooh.
is one of my projects, possibly to take my voice to see how is another country because I went with them in Mexico, but Mexico, in my opinion, was similar than Colombia.
Yeah,
Everybody speaks Spanish, music too loud. So it was really similarly ambience. I would be in another country, maybe like Canada or
mhm.
Australia or England, yes, or
Really
United States,
different.
whatever. Yeah, it would be
Yeah,
so different
yeah.
because they really open my mind. They really to show me the world is just not only that you see through the window. It's huge.
Yeah, well, it makes such a di big difference. And I think that that's such a great thing being able to travel somewhere because you can just be like, oh, look, this is life is so much bigger outside my little community. And look at these people,
Yeah,
how li they live their lives, and these people, and look at what they eat, or look how they talk, look at what they do for fun.
that's
It's
amazing.
it's such a gift to be able to do that. So I hope you get to do that too. And
Oh,
your
I hope
English is
so.
so good, but I mean, and you get to practice it every single day. But I kind of realized learning a language, you really do need to immerse yourself in it. And that's what was so great about going to Colombia, where I was like, okay, Duolingo is good, but I need to go somewhere,
Yeah, no, it's
practice it
true.
more. Yeah.
No, but I'm so excited, really. No, thanks. I like everything that you asked me. It's so very comfortable.
Oh, good.
That's good.
If you could describe Comuna 13 in 3 words, what 3 words would
Cool.
you use to describe it?
And 3 words. Ah, very interesting. I don't know. Mine is not 3 words, it's more than 3 words.
Okay, use more than 3 words then.
So I can say my neighborhood alive.
Hmm.
Alive. I think so. This is the word that really compliment for everything alive because before we were dead. Now it's alive. Yes. So I find it. Good. Alive. Colorful. Yes. And magic. Yes.
I agree with all of those words. It's everywhere you go, there's so much color. And it's Comuna 13 is teeming with life, and it really does seem magical. There's so many creative people in your Comuna. It's just very exciting to see everyone being able now to have the opportunity to create a company that they want to do, to be able to cater to tourists, if it's through art, or I even saw a tattoo artist or a coffee shop
Yeah.
or clothing, whatever they want. It was just really great.
Amazing. I live in a quiet place, no in my mother's house. I
Hmm.
only left my house 9 months ago. So this is it's still in Comuna 13. I
Hmm.
just walk 5 minutes and there will be in
Hmm.
a colorful, noisy neighborhood.
Yes.
Yes, but I did this with a lot of efforts in all my life. But
Mhm.
my point is, it's wonderful. It's good that you can see how when it's quiet and how it's alive. It's very different when it's quiet when it's alive.
Yeah.
So. It's lovely.
Before we go, I also want to talk to you about your restaurant because
Okay.
how many years have you had your restaurant for?
6 years. I think it was 6 years. Yeah.
So tell me
But
how that came to be.
it was a lovely story about it because it was never in my mind to change my mother's house and the restaurant.
Yeah.
It was the tourists asked me. They put in my mind that idea. They said, Laura, show me your house. I don't believe that you live in here. I say, yes, I live in here. So the terrace that you saw is nothing that 6 years ago. It was the local people living in the small apartment.
Mm,
Was the roof. People just sitting down on the floor, but they saw the view. They said, Laura, you have amazing view, change your mind. It was the first terrace 7 or 6 years. Now was more than 20 balconies with different stuff. But in a good way, it was a good support for part of my family.
hmm.
They had some money because it's a restaurant, it's like a bar. You can
Yeah.
just spend the time in the terrace, get some beer, talk with your friends. So it's a
Yeah.
good, really a good place. I'm so proud for that to give the opportunity for part of my family to
Yeah.
help them.
It's such a great idea. And the Laura has a restaurant where she takes you on her tour and then you finish at her restaurant and it is really fun because you get to kind of go through these little mazes of the houses to get to a restaurant and then you look over the most beautiful view over Comuna 13. And then like you said, you get to have a beer or a snack, like a bar, and just kind of hang out with your friends and enjoy the view. So smart business move. I think that was a great idea.
Yeah, no, it was amazing. So, was the inspiration that the question that you asked me, how is all the stuff the same? People copy us. Was the first balcony, and now it's wonderful how the people really they see
Mhm.
how the tourists need it.
Yeah.
Yes, because if nobody tell me that, believe me, my mother's on my house it was normal. Yes, but people put
Mhm.
that things on the mindset out. I change your house, working hard. Will be was the first balcony. Now it's a lot of balconies. It's unbelievable how the people is. Oh my God, I like the
Yeah.
idea. I change my own
Balconies.
house. Is exactly.
Balconies are everywhere now.
Yeah, balconies everywhere. Yes, and somebody asked me how much I pay for that view. I say nothing because maybe in Canada, if people has the view like this, you spend a lot of money with that view. Yes.
Well, and I think that is an interesting point to make about Colombia or Medellin versus maybe other places, because that was my first thought when I got to the city is when in Canada and America, when you build houses up on the mountain, it's because you have money and you're rich
Yeah.
and you want the view, so you can afford to build away from town. That's like the opposite in Medellin and Colombia. So you have the main city, and then as more immigrants come, they build up into the hillsides and they're further away from the amenities like electricity and water. And so it's actually opposite. So you might not spend as much money, but you have this gorgeous $1 million view.
Exactly. So, so I know about the things that you say is true. It was really funny that the tourists asked me how much I pay for the view because in some countries that you say is pay a lot. And Colombia is so so positive about idea, except Poblado because Poblado is in the mountain,
Yeah.
but you see the infrastructure. Yes, but here it was for the forced displacement years ago, farmers, indigenous, Afro-Colombians, or people maybe didn't have a house, so they come into the cities and build the houses without technique in the
Yeah.
mountain. So it was the reason for my neighborhood really is a mess because we don't have the streets, we don't have hospitals, no supermarkets, no schools. Yeah, a little by a little, the government improved the infrastructure, but it's not enough. It depends how far you house. You need to carry all your stuff in your shoulders because there's no easy access. So for the people with high escalators, it's amazing. But it's just a little part of the neighborhood. Depends how you live. So the reason that I really invited the people coming to visit us is about the story. The history is so strong.
Hmm.
Yes, how the people encourage themselves and making the neighborhood and a good progress. So maybe this is the really important things that the tourist wants to see it. Yeah, I'm so excited when I met the young people from Europe or everywhere, maybe 19 years old and 25 years old. They are so excited to see how the people working hard to change this neighborhood, how it's now an amazing progress. Colombia needs that. Colombia needs more culture, more education about how is really Colombian history.
Hmm.
Yeah, I hope so one day it really happen because you're talking with someone, the local people living in Colombia, it's not a lot of people to know about Comuna 13 story. How was the reason for the neighborhood? It was the most dangerous places around the world. There's nobody talking about it. It's not in the school. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, no. It's just the guys making the knowledge for the people outside. It would
Yeah.
be amazing that our young people they really to know what is that.
Well, that's why I wanted to do this because I tried to find other podcasts about it and I couldn't really. And there are some YouTube videos about your community, but a lot of them are in Spanish. So I wanted to kind of share this with the English speakers so they could learn more about Community 13 and just understand. I think Community 13 gives people an understanding about a small understanding about the history of Colombia in general, about what you've been through as a people and where you are now, and changing the perception that the outside world has of your country. And that it is, oh my God, it is so, so beautiful. It's just like I miss all the colors. I'm so missing all your fruit, the grenadillas.
Oh, the fruit. Also, the tourists they really love the fruits here.
We don't get
Yes.
yeah, we don't get those kind of fruits in North America. So just not the
Okay.
same. So
I
yeah,
think
it's so beautiful. And the people and everything, you have such an amazing country. So thank you for taking the time and sharing your story with me. I really appreciate it.
no, it's my pleasure. It's lovely to talk with you. That I really, really
Yeah.
like to share all the things. And thank you, really, that I was a good inspiration for you that you invited me into your program and talk and the people to know everywhere how it's Comuna 13. I hope so someday they wants to see Zippy Tour one day. Yes, it all
Absolutely.
will be great. And as for Laura,
Yes.
Laura.
So if anyone, yes, everyone who comes down to Colombia, practice their Spanish, take the
Yes.
city tour, which is in English, ask for Laura because she's the best. I'm sure all your guides are amazing.
You're
And
so
go to her
lovely.
restaurant and have a beer and look at the amazing view. And it's
Thank
just,
you.
that's the best.
I
Um,
hope one day I can invite you in my house when my feet is on my house. Really, I will be so excited that you come in here
oh,
to
I would,
see
I
how
would
I
love
get
to come
people
back.
to my heart.
Honestly,
Oh,
my heart was so sad to leave Colombia. I just, every day we were just like, how is this day getting better than the next day? We just had so much fun. But I have something that I'm going to put on my list for you is that when in
yes.
November or December it snows, I'm going to get some snow and I'm going to throw it at my camera for you and you
Will
can
be
catch the
great.
snowball. Because Laura, obviously, from coming from a southern country, she hasn't seen snow. And I
Yes,
have too much
you
snow.
have my house for you to stay here.
I'm willing to share it with anyone. And Laura, if you ever come to Canada and
Okay.
English, you can
No.
always come visit us. That would be so fun. Thank you, Laura. Okay, take care. Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
That was Laura from Medellin's Comuna 13, sharing her powerful perspective on a community that refused to be defined by its past. From violence to vibrance, her story reminds us that transformation is always possible when people come together with purpose and pride. And that's a wrap on this episode of Global Goodness. I hope today's stories of positivity and progress have inspired you as much as they've inspired me. If so, please consider subscribing and leaving a review on wherever you get your podcasts. Your support helps us shine a light on the amazing work happening around the world. And I'd love to hear from you. Feel free to share your thoughts, suggestions, or even your own stories of global goodness with me at Global Goodness Podcast on Instagram. Join us next time as we continue to explore and celebrate the incredible ways people are making a difference. Until then, stay inspired, stay compassionate, and keep spreading goodness wherever you go.